Spoilers for Bad Batch seasons 1, 2, and 3 up till episode 7. Oi pessoal, how is everybody doing? And how are you guys liking the new season of the Bad Batch? I personally am loving all the episodes. I am having such a good time, and I've been having so much inspiration and also motivation, which I feel like doesn't come often to me, inspiration and motivation to draw a lot. So I've been doing a lot of that, which is a lot of fun. But I also haven't just been spending the entire day drawing. No. I've been on a self-growth journey, and part of that journey, which honestly is kind of ongoing and lasts an entire lifetime, at least for me anyways. Part of that journey for me has been discovering the Enneagram. In case you've never heard of the Enneagram, let me try to explain it very quickly to you, very simply. So if you would like to dive a little deeper into it, I will leave some resources down below, but very simply put, the Enneagram, according to Abby Howie, YouTube's resident Enneagram expert, or at least one of my trusted sources, says that the Enneagram is a personality categorizing system with 9 personality types. And the unique thing about the Enneagram is that instead of just focusing on behaviors, it really dives deep into the why of our actions, our motivations, our fears, and what coping strategies we develop as children based on traumas or stress that we might have experienced when we were younger. I've been spending so much time with the Enneagram just floating around in my mind, and I thought, you know what, why not combine the super cool thing that I'm learning about with my current favorite show, The Bad Batch. Oh, there it is, The Bad Batch. This is just a way for me to sort of take the knowledge that I learned from the Enneagram and also my excessive knowledge of the Bad Batch and turn it into something fun and hopefully entertaining for you all. So according to Josh Keefe, our personalities began as coping strategies we develop as children to feel safe and secure in the face of trauma and stress. A lot of the Enneagram theory comes from our childhood experiences. And many of the sources that I use paint childhoods with the most amount of trauma as possible. And while that is absolutely and unfortunately true for many folks, it's never a one-size-fits-all. I advise that if you look into any talk about the Enneagram, you not only take it with a grain of salt, but with also the context of your own upbringing and childhood. But you might be wondering, why is she saying all this? Well, how do I say this? The clones never had a childhood besides our dear Omega over here. They were sort of bred for war, and they all aged, what's the word? Accelerated aging. And they were quite literally programmed to behave the way that they did. So that is what we're going to do today. We are going to type all 6 members of the Bad Batch. We're going to go from oldest to youngest, at least my headcanon for oldest to youngest. Also about me, if you care to know, I'm a self-preservation 1 wing 2. In true 1 fashion, I have broken down each character's typing like this. We are going to start with their type, their core motivation, their core fear, their wing, and then we're going to talk about their subtype / their instinct. There are 3 different kinds. There's a self-preservation, there's a social, and there's a sexual, which is also called 1-to-1, which doesn't have to only pertain to like sexuality. It's more about 1-to-1 intimacy. And then the 3 triads are the center of intelligence, the harmonic, and then the Hornevian / the social. So the center of intelligence, there are 3 triads, which is the body / gut, the heart / image, and the head / mind. And then the harmonic triad is how each type handles conflict or their coping mechanisms and their worldview. And then the Hornevian/social is how each type moves in relation to other people, how they get what they want/need, and how they comport themselves in any given situation or social situation. And then, any other thing that I might have to say. All right, that's a lot. Are you ready? Grab a drink, a snack. We might be here for a while. Let's get into it. We are going to start with Omega, who is a two-wing one. Twos are also known as the helpers or the givers. So with Omega, with a 2, their core motivation is going to be loved. And to be loved, you must love others. And also they want to be needed and to express their feelings for others. So some core fears are going to be feeling unworthy of love or being abandoned and left alone. Right off the bat, I feel like this one is quite easy to see with Omega. In season 1, she expresses her fear of being left behind and how she really wants so desperately to be a part of the squad. And I really love how Hunter promises her that he won't leave her behind and that she has a place in their group. Alright, so her wing is 1. She's a 1 wing. So a 2-wing 1 is also known as the servant, and that 1 wing influences her decisions, that and being guided by Echo, who is also a type 1, but more on that later. She holds truths very firmly, like her morals very firmly, and she acts based on what she believes is right. So that's the influence of the 1. And her 1 wing also gives her discipline and focus on achieving the right thing to do. Personalitypath.com says that 2s can feel so compelled to do the right thing by others that they begin to struggle with feelings of guilt. And I'm a little curious to see how her feelings of guilt will develop in this season. She feels burdened to not only do the right thing, 1 wing, but to help others. Type 2. We've already started seeing a little bit of that when she says, she continues to bring up, like, we need to go back to Tantus. I need to help free the other clones. She feels that it's her mission to do so. Now, for her subtype / her instinct, she is a 1-to-1. 2. She seeks intimacy with a small group of people. So in her case, that would be her brothers. You've got a type on YouTube says, when 1-to-1 2s are stressed out or sad, they will never feel close enough or always feel disconnected from the ones that they love. Their reaction to this may be to rebuke their loved ones for not caring enough. So this is literally what happened when Omega was calling out Tech in season 2. Why do you not care that Echo is gone? Don't you care? Everything is changing, and she feels scared and vulnerable, and she takes Tech's more analytical and objective take on the current events as him not caring, which is not true. But that I feel like that is definitely the 1-to-1 aspect of her personality. On to the triads. 2s are part of the heart/image center, which means they are in conflict with their feelings of sadness and inadequacy, and they also struggle with feelings of shame for just being. So 2s will cope with that feeling of shame by opting to appear likable and helpful to others. Josh Keefe says how 2s care for others, nurture them, and love them into someone better than who they were in the beginning is such a beautiful thing I see about type 2s, and I believe this is everything that Omega has been for her brothers, and Hunter and Echo have each told her individually how she's made their lives so much better respectively. I think that's such a superpower of the type 2s. They have so much love in their heart, and they're so ready and eager to share that with others. Now, in the harmonic triads, 2s fall into the positivity triangle. This means that they will cope with pain by looking at the world as glass half full, and more specifically for 2s, They will look for the good in themselves and in others to combat or make sense of the fallen world or the broken world. Now for the Hornevian/social triad, 2s are in the compliant group, which means that they will be loyal to leadership and authority just to ensure a place at the table next time they're invited, and there better be a next time. As I've been saying, the big thing for 2s is needing to belong and fearing abandonment, so they act very pleasing and loving and giving to others. That doesn't have to be a selfish thing. Healthy 2s are so selfless, but more selfish 2s might give just to receive, right? In the season 2 premiere, I believe that's where she displays the most unhealthiest qualities of a 2 in all of the show. An example of this is when she tried to recover all the lost assets, which were Dooku's treasure in that season 2 premiere. She tells Echo how guilty and ashamed she felt that they gave everything up for her, and she tries to earn her spot in their squad and earn their affection by being helpful. I think that's one of the only times that I really heard her expressing her needs and her wants. Echo, being the sweet mom and the type 1 that he is, reassured her by saying that choosing her was the right thing to do. It must have also spoken to her one wing coming from a type 1. When talking about the compliant group, Omega, despite feeling like she has so much to offer and a fear of being left behind, she complies with Hunter's orders to stay on the ship in the earliest episodes. So she's being pleasing and helpful to secure her spot, which is fulfilling her needs. In seasons 2 and 3, however, having grown more and being right in the middle of adolescence, she finds her voice and sometimes disobeys her authority figures, mostly being Hunter and Echo, but not exclusively, and goes out of her way to be helpful anyways. Something so interesting that the Enneagram Institute says is that 2s help people to see positive qualities in themselves that they had not previously recognized. This is so Omega. She shows each of her brothers how much value they have and how much they are worth as people outside of being soldiers, which is a huge theme of the show. So what better character to have as your main protagonist than a type 2? And as a bonus, last little thing about Omega, I just want to say how I see so many similarities between her and Steven Universe, the eponymous and infamous poster child of cartoon characters that desperately need therapy. I suspect that by the end of the series, Omega's going to be needing some therapy as well. Anyway, Steven, in my eyes, is a type 2 and highly sensitive double whammy. Both characters feel it is their duty to serve others. Both are big political targets in their respective world, and both also have a group of older siblings/parents. Steven has the crystal gems, Omega has her brothers. Now we're on to Echo, a one-wing 9. 1s are also known as the reformers or the perfectionists. So I'm also a 1, so let's see how heated I get about this. No, I'm playing. So the core motivation for 1 is going to be having a divine purpose, also seeking justice and righting what's wrong with the world. So 1s have this inner critic inside of themselves. So this inner critic is going to see something, they're going to say something, and they're going to do something about whatever it is that they find wrong. They feel called by a higher power and also have this desire for fairness and justice in the world. So some core fears are going to be of being wrong, of being unintegral, of allowing evil to triumph. You've Got a Type says that 1s are terrified of being the bad guy. Echo says that he wants to make up for or atone for all the harm that he caused while he was a part of the algorithm in that arc in the Clone Wars Season 7. But it wasn't his fault, and I think he's able to move past that, and instead of working hard to atone for what he did wrong, he works hard because it is just the right thing to do. So Echo is a one-wing 9, and one-wing 9s are known as the idealists. As stated in Season 3, Episode 4, The Return, 5. In Episode 5, The Return, he has acted as a mediator between Hunter and Crosshair before. A one-wing 9 is the ideal mediator because they value peace, which comes from the 9, and fairness, which comes from the 1. One-wing 9s also tend to think, how can the world be better? They approach justice in a softer way rather than being super aggressive, which is a tendency for 1. They are more gentle because of the 9 influence. And maybe this is also why he's so good with Omega, teaching her gently. Alright, so I think Echo's subtype or instinct is definitely social. He speaks up for those in need and for the causes that he believes in, and he's not afraid to challenge his peers, but also appreciates others with strong convictions, like Rex. He is also the one who teaches Omega about what's right and wrong. A moment that really stood out to me when I first watched the episode, I forget what it's called, but it's season 1, episode 4. When Omega asks about slavery, he teaches her that treating people as objects or transactions is morally wrong. When Tech mentions that saving Muchi would also benefit them financially, Echo focuses on his ethical responsibility of saving Muchi. We're doing this because it's the right thing to do, not because it'll benefit us somehow. And then mid-season 2, Echo leaves the batch to follow his calling for helping his brothers. He felt as if it was his duty to bring justice and to do the right thing. Man, I keep saying that, but that's basically what being a 1 is about. This action really hurt Omega because it kind of felt like he was abandoning her. And that's not what he was doing. 1s are in the body/gut center, which means that they struggle with accepting their instincts or their anger. The body/gut triad is all about feelings of angers. 9s suppress it, 8s express it super obviously, and 1s struggle with not showing anger because that's what's seen as morally wrong. But I believe that Echo has transcended that unhealthy thought process, and he's learned to use his anger to motivate him instead of wallowing in his feelings or ideals. He acts on what is right. For the harmonic triad, 1s are in the competency group. They focus on objectivity and competency in favor of their feelings in order to cope and produce a more favorable result. As for the Hornevian/social triad, 1s are in the compliant group. You've got a type. Says that 1s believe there is a proper way to behave based on who's in charge. What you'll see is that 1s can act, especially Echo, he acts very polite when he's meeting Cut and Sue for the first time in season 1. He's very formal when Sue's like, hi, nice to meet you. He's like, ma'am. You've Got a Type said something that really spoke to me as a 1, but also I believe speaks on Echo. He says, 1s may actually go above and beyond expectations in a certain area that they approve of, then totally disobey the rules in another area if they seem unfair or counterproductive to the greater good. Side note, another character that I totally think is the 1 is Amy Santiago from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Everything that I read fits her to a T. Next, let's talk about everybody's favorite DILF, Hunter. Well, I don't know about everybody's, but he's certainly one of mine. Hunter is a 6-wing 7. 6s are known as the loyalists and the committed. Admittedly, I have to say that typing Hunter was quite difficult for me, but once I sort of convinced myself that he was a 6, I was like, yeah, I think that makes sense. But I feel like maybe you might have a different take on him, and I would love to hear it. All the other ones, I'm pretty certain on. But Hunter, is still up for debate in my mind, but that's okay. Anyways, 6's motivations are going to be finding commitment, safety, and security. You've Got a Type says that 6s are super contradictory. He says that they can be responsible yet rebellious, committed yet suspicious, but they're totally ride or die, which is where the loyalist name comes from. So 6s are going to be loyal to ideas and yet loyal to questioning everything. Contradictory. Perhaps this is why Hunter had an easier time questioning the Empire. He is so fiercely defendant of his family, and he always puts family before himself. So something from the episode Infiltration, Season 3, Episode 6. Once he saw that Crosshair was really on their side again, he was so quick to defend him against Hauser. That time when he says, "You're gonna have to back down, Captain." It's like, don't mess with my family. I know what I'm talking about. You can't talk to him like that. And that was so nice to see for me. So sixes are also gonna have this sort of push-pull relationship with authority. Remember when Tech says that they're deviant by nature? Well, Hunter is a sergeant, but he doesn't follow like the regulations that that the Republic kind of had set in place. They are very unorthodox, right? All right, let's talk about their core fears. They fear greatly a loss of security, and they feel a lot of anxiety. Of course, anybody can feel anxiety. We all feel anxiousness to a certain level, but sixes are more predisposed to that, I believe. So a loss of security for Hunter would be losing Omega. Because he's a dad and stuff. Sixes act suspicious of those who betray their trust. So that's why he was so suspicious of Crosshair when they reunited. The Enneagram Institute says that sixes also tend to fear making important decisions, although at the same time, they resist having anyone else make decisions for them. So with sixes, you can either be a counterphobic six or a phobic six. A counterphobic six rushes to fear head on, and a phobic six runs away from fear. So think fight or flight. I'm thinking that a Hunter might be a phobic six. He might flight instead of fight, but I'm not super secure with that. For me, it doesn't really make a big difference for the rest of the stuff that I have written down for him, but please feel free to let me know what you think. Hunter is a 6-wing 7 in my eyes. They are also known as the buddy. So buddies are going to avoid anxiety / fear / whatever it is that's bogging them down because they just don't want to think about it. So in season 1, Hunter really did the most, it seemed to me, trying to ignore the huge crosshair-shaped hole in his life. And it was Omega who was the one consistently and constantly reminding them that they need to go back for him. And I do believe that in his heart of hearts, Hunter did want to go back and save Crosshair. But maybe he couldn't say that because he was just too hurt by Crosshair's actions. Another reason it might have been hard for Hunter to come around to Crosshair is because sixes are by nature suspicious and full of contradictions. At the beginning of season 1, he was a little suspicious of Sid. He didn't really trust her. He was a little judgy of her, but then kind of switched and was like, no, we gotta rely on her completely. Like, she's the one who's like giving us money. What can I say? Sixes are full of contradictions. Oh, I like this thing here that You've Got a Type says. He says that sixes, especially 6-wing 7s, are outwardly loving and supportive and a little playful, which I'm really sad we haven't seen a lot of his playful side in the Bad Batch, but I get that the tone is quite heavy sometimes, but he's very playful. Hunter is very playful with Wrecker in the Clone Wars arc. So there's that. All right, so for the subtype or instinct, I definitely say that Hunter is a self-preservation 6. They are the ultimate homemakers. You've Got a Type says that they are concerned with protecting the home, which makes them very strategic about how they spend their money and who they choose as friends or neighbors. So they're always looking for allies in this tumultuous world, but they're also a little hesitant, like one foot back, because they're super suspicious of everyone. And I definitely think you can see that in the Adventure of the Week episodes back in season 1. You've Got a Type also says that in the family, they're usually the ones in charge. They have an easier time voicing their anxieties with others in hopes that they will reassure them, although I'm not sure he's mentioned that a lot, but in my mind, he has a potential to voice that he's afraid. And also they react to adversity by clinging to whatever it is that they are currently linked with, even if it's super toxic. So he stuck with Sid for a long time until the very end, till Sid ratted them out, you know? So sixes are in the head/thinking center, and this triad is they have hard times with fear and with pain. So for sixes, it's about how to combat it or ignore it. While type fives escape the outer world by looking inwardly and sevens escape the inner world by looking outwardly, sixes do both. I feel like the sixth word of the day is contradictory. They'll swing back and forth from shutting out the outside world or denying their inner turmoil. But that's when they're really unhealthy. Finding a sense of self-insecurity outside of their given circumstance and establishment allows sixes to take all their best traits of proactive thinking and responsibility and become incredibly strong leaders. So in terms of the harmonic triad, sixes are in the reactive group. Sixes will either run away, hoping that you chase after them, or get up all in your face to see if you can handle them at their worst, according to You've Got a Type. So in season 1, when Cross stayed behind, Hunter felt an immense guilt for not having done something to get him back. And at the end of season 2 and the beginning of season 3, I can only imagine how guilty and angry he must have felt when he let Omega slip through his fingers. All of this is really sad stuff, but then again, the harmonic triad is all about how each type copes with difficult situations. And the last triad, the Horneven/social triad, sixes are part of the compliant group. So they like to foster a tribe or community. And for him, it's his squad, which is really just a Star Wars term for family. And lastly, on Hunter and Crosshair's relationship, this is something that I found on EnneagramInstitute.com on 6 and 6 relationships. Since they are also emotionally reactive, they tend to become edgy and argumentative with each other, often blaming the other for the situation and for not providing the solution. Shifting blame back and forth can be like a ping pong match, whose main objective are to keep connection with the other by keeping them in the argument, and to buy time to work through their anxiety so that a solution may appear. If that wasn't what season 3 episode The Return was, I don't know what to tell you. All right, we are now on to Tech, our 5-wing 6, aka the investigator, the cerebral. So for a 5, the core motivation is going to be being capable and being competent and needed based on their knowledge. So 5s like to question why things are the way that they are. They avoid risk-taking because thinking is safer than doing. The whole thing about a 5 is that they really value their inner resources and their inner world and energy, which is why you see that 5s tend to be way more introverted. The deadly sin of 5s is going to be avarice, the hoarding of ideas and of their help and support, and that is so Tech. How many times have the batch been like, Tech, that's information that you were supposed to have said earlier? 5s sometimes like to do this to be like, I knew you were gonna need me. I'm not dispensable. I am competent. I'm going to keep all this information until the very last minute when they need my help. You've Got a Type says that 2s value intellectual integrity far more than social acceptance, and also that the more common a task, the more often it is ignored or dismissed as unimportant. I'm saying this to say that Tech is kind of stiff when he chats with Fee, despite her dropping all these kinds of hints, and I have a feeling that he does pick up on some, if not most of her hints. He just dismisses them as unimportant to the main objective. AKA, he is not heartless and he is not a robot. I want you to take this stereotype you have of 5s and throw it out the window. All right. Personality Path says this about 5s. They say that 5s feel like they really need to understand everything before they can make a move. There is this one scene in that episode where they're saving Moochie when he said something like, I don't have enough data to make an educated guess or something like that, and that is so 5. They want to research every little thing before speaking up to avoid looking foolish. 5's core fear is going to be of being useless and of being helpless. So personalitypath.com says 5's always try to base their decisions on reason and knowledge. They don't get easily overwhelmed by their emotions, but instead detach from them and analyze them to understand what's going on. Again, it's not that 5's don't feel emotions, but rather rule them out in favor of basing their actions on reason and knowledge, which is safer in their eyes. Tech is a 5-wing 6. They are also known as the problem solvers. They have a busy mind, they suppress their emotions, and are quite uncomfortable with relationships. According to You've Got a Type, he also says that they are robotic and lack self-awareness, but acting a little robotic is definitely not the same thing as being heartless and emotionless, all right? They just lack a little bit of that self-awareness. They are super intellectual, but quite socially awkward, which can be very endearing. Personalitypath.com says this: they are very observant of the world around them, but not particularly introspective. 5 needs to withdraw into the safety of their own predictable mind, coupled with the 6's desire and search for safety and predictability when facing the anxiety-inducing world. Perhaps the most anxious type there is out there, though we don't see him ever voice that because this wing pairing tends to keep all those thoughts, if they even choose to acknowledge them, inside. So personalitypath.com says this, which I really like: the 6 influence grants them more attractive, lovable qualities that make them endearing to others, but they still need to choose to put an emphasis on people instead of objects. That is definitely the character of Tech. Alright, so Tech's subtype / instinct is social, having a specific and integral role in the squad. He's their tech guy. You've Got a Type says that they like to stay in their sweet spot and don't seek social interaction to avoid awkwardness that comes from their inexperience. So this is more like having a role in a society rather than lots of social relationships. But doesn't mean that they don't enjoy relationships. Just they act based on that need for having a place in this world. Alright, 5's are part of the head / thinking center. They feel this anxiety for the future, but they internalize it. And you might say, but he's so confident. Yeah, because he grew up with loving brothers who gave him the space to try out new things and in turn gain new information. Quite healthy as they come in terms of combating anxiety. 5's are also in the competency group in the harmonic triad. They avoid feeling pain by making all situations purely logical. They speak very matter-of-factly when discussing emotionally heavy topics. So back to the season 2 arc where Echo first left them, he tells Omega, a type 2 who feels all the feels, that it's just life. But he said it in a more beautiful way that reassured her, which I really liked. Alright, in the Hornevian / social triad, 5's are withdrawn, natural introverts, preserving the self, but they can come alive when they know there's a clear start and end time. If the time block is ambiguous, that'll cause stress because they don't know how to divide their energy. I also want to say that I've heard a lot of cool discussions about how Tech is autistic coded or more broadly neurodivergent coded, and I love these theories and these headcanons. And if you also subscribe to these ideas, more power to you. I just want to say that I can't really speak on them, being a neurotypical person myself. And lastly, I also have a 5 in my life who is very near and dear to me, so I will not be tolerating any Tech or 5 slander whatsoever. Right, let's move on to Wrecker, the 7-wing 6, aka the enthusiast or the busy. The first 7, their core motivation is going to be never stopping the fun, satisfaction, and always having their needs fulfilled. So they're very lighthearted and sometimes a little unserious. They have this insatiable appetite, and I love what You've Got a Type says: best way to annoy a 7, showing up with cynicism and negativity. So put Tech and Wrecker in a room together, literally that. All right, for a 7, their core fear is going to be deprivation, boredom, fear, and pain. So they might have a low sense of self-worth, highly independent, and sometimes a little selfish. They don't want to be in charge, but they also don't want to be controlled. As seen when he tells Tech, "I like to blow things up because I like to blow things up." Also explains why he clashes with Tech so much, because he's very analytical and sometimes comes across as negative, like we said. And this bothers a 7 because, like, dude, lighten up. Don't think about why we do the thing, just do it. But also don't tell me what to do either. Alright, I say that Wrecker is a 7 wing 6. Man, everybody's 6 it seems. They are known as the entertainers. So they're collaborative, playful, and love fun times with friends. So not only do they not want to be left with feeling boredom, but they also want to run away from anxiety because of that 6 wing. Not sure if I've seen Wrecker act like this too much, but the playfulness and focus on relationship really leads me to believe that he is a 7 wing 6, not a wing 8. Despite his aggressiveness, 7s can also act aggressively. So his subtype / instinct, I say, is 1-1, or also known as the sexual instinct. They have a need for intensity and end up falling in love with an activity, like blowing stuff up. CP Enneagram says that they are lighthearted and enthusiastic. They focus on exciting possibilities and pleasurable fantasies, and they believe that they can do anything. 7s are in the head / thinking center. Even if they might not be seen as your more typical intellectual type, they are still very sharp people. And they navigate the world through thoughts and anticipate future problems. Again, the thinking center focuses a lot on anxiety. Enneagram Institute says that the thinking is anticipatory. They foresee events and generate ideas on the fly, favoring activities that stimulate their mind. They also say that their minds move rapidly from one idea to the next, making 7s gifted at brainstorming and synthesizing information. In the season 2 premiere, Wrecker was the one who was coming up with solutions on the fly. I loved seeing that side of him. Alright, they are in the positivity group of the harmonic triad. They look for the silver lining, but don't rush past grief. They have this tendency to do so because negative feelings are not fun. They also have a sort of high pain tolerance. In season 1, he pushed away that headache because he wanted to focus on the bright side. You know, don't worry about me, I'm fine, even if everything isn't fine. You don't have to do that. It's okay to acknowledge that you're feeling not good. 7s are in the assertive group in the Horneven / social triad. Their physical presence makes everything better. They also believe that they are entitled to take whatever they want, according to the Enneagrammer.com. Yeah, I don't have much else to say. It's kind of plain to see how aggressive and domineering he is, yet he is so gentle and tender with his family, and he's also not quite intimidating either. And I think that's because his 6 wing softens the intensity of the 7. Alright, we are on to our final batcher, my personal favorite of the bunch. As you can see here, I have my bracelet. We are on to Crosshair. Crosshair is also a 6, but he is a 6 wing 5, and you will also see he has a different instinct or a subtype than Hunter. So again, type 6s are known as the loyalists and the committed. Just a quick rundown. You've already heard this, but let me reiterate it because it's been a while since we talked about Hunter. 6's core motivations are going to be security, support, and having a community to rely on. They defend their beliefs very strongly, like the Empire. You've got a type says that 6s feel that their unshakable commitment earns them safety and protection by the broader organization. So that core fear of loss of security, untrustworthiness, you know, we see that a lot in Crosshair. They're worried that people are faking their genuine interests in them. They lack an inner guidance and confidence to trust themselves, which is why Cross staked his claim to the Empire, believing that there he would find that sense of security that 6s really long for. You've got a type also says that 6s need something to push against in order to feel grounded, and they're constantly winding up complaining or feeling mistreated because subconsciously that feeling of dissatisfaction from authority is more familiar than feeling seen, supported, or empowered. Remember how I said that 6s are either phobic or counterphobic? Well, I think that Crosshair might be a counterphobic 6, charging fear head on. For the wing, I say that Crosshair is a 6-wing 5. They are also known as the Defender. So they are less concerned about pleasing people in favor of having the correct belief system. The 5-wing makes them more introverted, cold, and analytical, and observant, which is every fanfic writer's favorite personality trait to really highlight in any given work, whether it's Crosshair is observant about YN, Crosshair is observant about his brothers, Crosshair is observant about the situation. Am I exposing that I've read Crosshair X reader fix? What? Moving on. Personalitypath.com says this about 6-wing 5s, that on less healthy levels, it can make them reactionary in their opinions and suspicious while hanging on to their chosen belief system, which they defend more radically the more threatened that they feel. Crosshair in a nutshell. So the 5 plus the 6 is going to give them the sort of technical expertise. They look for systems with defined rules, and I'm paraphrasing here what You've Got a Type says. When they're unhealthy, 6-wing 5s are secretive, suspicious, nihilistic, and attack those that threaten their security or beliefs. It's sort of the journey that he went through, right? That he's still on, really. So remember when I said that even though Hunter and Crosshair are both type 6s, but the subtype / the instinct really influences a person, and not only can a wing make 2 of the same type look different, but also the instinct. So I say that Crosshair is absolutely social instinct or subtype. According to the Enneagram Institute.com, they say that social types lose their sense of identity and meaning when they are not involved with others in activities that transcend their individual interests, right? He's a soldier for the Empire. They can go with the flow and let things slide till it starts getting too personal. And when I say this, all I can think of is that cafeteria food fight scene in the very first episode when he's just trying to enjoy his soup till someone knocks it over. Now it's personal. CP Enneagram says that social 6s focus on precision and efficiency. They adhere to whatever the guidelines are as a form of having protective authority. They are so afraid of being alone that they can fall into toxic groups, such as the Empire. Alright, now 6s are also part of the mind / thinking center. As I've said, they live in the future anticipating what could go wrong. They both run away from the outer world and the inner world. I need to do something about this, but have my actions ruined everything? They have these kinds of thoughts. When they quiet the mind and find security outside any circumstance, though, they can become champions of self-affirmation and independence, while still being fiercely loyal to their loved ones and always supporting them. Of course, Crosshair is still a long ways from getting there, but he's getting there. In terms of the harmonic triad, 6s are in the reactive group. You've Got a Type says when faced with a crisis, they look around at their surroundings and the people closest to them to see if they'll be supportive or if they're gonna leave. So when faced with adversity, the Empire decommissioning clones, he tests the loyalty both of the Empire and his siblings. You've Got a Type also says 6s will either run away hoping you chase after them or get up all in your face to see if you can handle them at their worst, like I said with Hunter. So Crosshair ran away, waiting for his wings to come after him, and when they didn't, or when it seemed that they didn't, he turned to the next best thing, which was the Empire. In the Hornevian / social triad, 6s are in the compliant group. Y'all, just listen to what You've Got a Type says. Any controversial behaviors usually stem from a feeling of confidence they have in their association with that other, stronger association. Again, quite literally, Crosshair's character in the very beginning of season 1, when he unalives the new stormtrooper or whatever, who was like, don't listen to the clone, we're not we're not assassins, we're just soldiers. And then he's like, if you don't have the guts to do this, I'll do it. This is why they put me in charge. Anybody else want to disobey my orders? This is it. He thinks he can do anything he wants because he thinks that he's indispensable to the Empire, but later he realizes that he is not continuing on that sort of indispensability or dispensability. The move of disintegration of 6s is to move to the 3. They feel they need to perform their best in order to be seen as valuable, which is why at the beginning I at first believed crosshair to be a 3-wing 4, because they feel a sense of shame for just being, and 3s perform their best in order to justify their existence. That was my initial thought, but now I see it a little differently. I see him as a type 6 who moved unhealthily to the worst traits of the 3, and now he's on his journey of redemption. All right, so that was it. I hope you had fun, learned a little something new. Please let me know what your thoughts are. And also, if you disagree with any of my typing, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions. I'm by no means an Enneagram expert. I'm by no means a Bad Batch or Star Wars expert. I'm just a girl who has a lot of time on her hands right now and felt like doing this fun, silly little thing. That was a lot. My jaw's a little tired from talking a lot. But yeah, I will link all the sources that I use in the description. Special thank you to my mom who read over my script and helped me edit a few things there. I hope you had fun and learned something new. I will come back with a more fun and interesting video for next time. Ciao, ciao.
Like, subscribe.